with Donald Trump abusing executive power, some of it blatantly admitting it, other times doing it in ways that take critical scrutiny, reporting, investigative journalism to pull apart and make sense of what's happening. And some of these are stories that have echoes, they have a mood of repetition, but that's part of the problem. Not a government doing something once and getting dialed back or making a mistake, but rather what has accrued into a pattern. And while any serious journalist, all the journalists we studied under over the years say that you don't try to make journalism the story, you don't try to make the act of reporting the story, when the government cracks down on it, as we've seen in many countries, from Russia to Hungary, well, you don't ignore it either. Journalists and First Amendment experts, advocates across the political spectrum, to the extent that lawyers have the spectrum, and journalists, many of whom are completely nonpartisan in their careers, are united right now, starting this week, with concern, criticism, and some outright sounding serious alarms about it happening here. That what Trump once mused about or only tweeted about in the first term is now part of our lived reality in the autocratic crackdown against free speech, the free speech of journalists to report, unfettered both by government interference and by something that also can amount to censorship, government pressure on other entities, including the capitalist corporate structure, to constrain, censor, or change the journalism that the public uses and needs to govern itself. I am talking, of course, about this highly unusual and costly settlement where money is basically going from the CBS company, its parent company Paramount, towards Donald Trump and his interests. Paramount is now paying $16 million towards basically places that Trump wants, in this case, the presidential library, not directly into his pocket, but also reimbursing him and his organization's campaign, et cetera, for any legal fees accrued in their choice to sue 60 Minutes for something that is in the strike zone of journalism. Its efforts to report on the presidential campaign and to interview and quote both sides, which CBS, like many other outlets, endeavors to do every campaign year. They're also going to release the transcripts of their interviews with presidential candidates in the future. Not a big part of the settlement there, but Donald Trump made a claim that has not been proven in court. He never won this case outright, and it was considered far-fetched by First Amendment advocates, lawyers, experts. He basically said that the way the Kamala Harris interview aired was an affront, damage to him to such a degree that he wanted to take them to court. Legal scholars saw no case there. And if you want background, CBS has been sued by all sorts of important people before. They usually fight these cases, especially when the claim is weak. But the other thing going on is that its parent company, I should say, a bit of a tongue twister, its parent company, Paramount, has a lot on the line. Because right now they need the Trump administration's approval for what they want to do that matters a lot more to them, apparently, than some news interviews, for a big multi-billion-dollar merger. And that was now seen by Trump as a kind of prerequisite for getting the approval. The pressure intensified because Trump threatened Paramount with another defamation lawsuit on a different 60 Minutes report. In this settlement, he will also stand down on that particular threat. Although keep in mind, as we've seen in other countries, if the government can do this kind of thing and be rewarded for it, get away with it, what's to stop Trump from picking another current or future CBS report that he threatens to sue over? It's not as if CBS or any honest news organization can just stop covering the president of the United States. Now, journalists far and wide are condemning this development. I say it may have echoes because Trump has sued multiple press outlets. Others have settled in other scenarios. And this one had been leaking out. We reported on some aspects of this, for example, last week. But take the icon of CBS News, longtime CBS Evening News anchor Dan Rather, who says this today is a sad day for journalism, a distortion by the president, kneeling down and saying, yes, sir, by the billionaire corporate owners. He's speaking of the people who now run CBS, where he worked for so long. And he goes on to say, as you see here, quote, it was a sellout to extortion by the president. Current CBS journalists also condemn what's happening in their workplace.
The Paramount settlement poses a new obstacle. Can you hold power to account after paying it millions? Can an audience trust you when it thinks you've traded away that trust? The audience will decide that. Our job is to show up, to honor what we witness on behalf of the people we witness it for.
Trump finding new ways to basically not violate the actual First Amendment. For example, you're not seeing the government here passing a law to say you can't run the interview with his opponent that he didn't like. But he is, according to many, undercutting the spirit, the tradition, and quite possibly other laws, depending on if you believe the critics who, as I'll report, say this was a shakedown. There are also letters now to tech companies where his attorney general says they can go ahead and just violate the statute that does bar companies from working here on TikTok because Trump says so. Legal experts say it's a power grab. Presidents, of course, have some discretion about enforcement priorities, but they have never admitted to or been allowed to simply pick laws out that they don't want to follow. There is also the wider effort to undercut the courts to test how far they can go in defying or delaying or not really following court orders. And amazingly, the Supreme Court recently has helped the executive. They didn't do that during the Biden era, but now that Trump has been in charge here in office for over 100 days, the Supreme Court agreed with Trump's request to have other judges back off pausing or freezing even executive actions that are deemed likely illegal, that were likely to later be frozen or overturned by the high court. An ABC News report says the court's ruling this term disproportionately advantaged Trump, which makes it easier for these assorted abuses of power, some allegedly illegal, if you believe that it's extortion, if there is evidence of that, some skirting the law, and some technically lawful, but against all long-term bipartisan traditions, including conservative traditions, about why you don't want the government in charge of the press or the tech companies or the free markets telling you what you're going to learn, what you're allowed to read or see on TV or the internet, what may be happening in the world. There is a reason why across the world autocrats have always gone after the press early in efforts to ultimately curtail democracy itself. With these alerts in mind, I want to bring in the Atlantic staff writer Mark Leibowitz and Democratic political strategist Juanita Tolliver. Welcome to both of you. Mark, the CBS story has been going for a while. It's now hit this crescendo. And I haven't heard anyone involved in journalism or facts defend it, say it's on the level. There seems to be agreement in the factual community that this was an ugly, sordid deal, even if, as I carefully point out, it may not be itself a crime.
Well, you're not going to find any defense from me. I think everyone in this business, certainly on the news side of the operation, finds it quite chilling, not just for this case in particular, but what it bodes for the future as far as what Donald Trump is willing to do to basically harass news organizations. But I think even more so, what the parent companies of news organizations are willing to cave into. I think, to be honest, there's always going to be some tension between the corporate parents of journalism. Journalists are going to push in one way. I think a more corporate interest will maybe push in the other direction, but that's sort of part of the journalism that we operate in. This is something that basically the parent company of CBS here, Paramount, and just in advance of this merger, is looking to sort of usurp the journalistic interest of CBS, specifically 60 Minutes, and try to just sort of muddy the waters and make it harder for their journalists to do journalism going forward. I can't think of a worse result. I certainly associate myself with Dan Rather and every other journalist who condemns this.
Juanita?
I keep going back to a statement that Bill Owens, the outgoing longtime executive producer of 60 Minutes, made back in April when he resigned, emphasizing how 60 Minutes lost independence through their parent company, through these threats from Donald Trump. And it just highlights the impact, because Ari, you're right. Technically, Donald Trump has not violated the First Amendment. However, it is going to have an impact on editorial decisions, stories chosen, how they're delivered to audiences, and not just by CBS. I think back to the settlement that ABC made with Donald Trump in their lawsuit. And so it just comes back to this reality of taking yet another step towards this type of control, because Donald Trump is now in a positive momentum building posture in terms of threats. What threats are going to come next? What cooling effect will we witness? How will stories be told going forward? These are all questions that hopefully journalists continue to stand up and maintain the journalistic integrity and ethics associated with the work, because the audience is the public, not the president.
Yeah, and you remember, you're referencing, and people may remember that moment with Mr. Owens, who was the journalist and the executive producer in charge of 60 Minutes. Whatever they saw writing on the wall, whatever pressures were brought to bear, they were dealing with it first before we got to today's settlement.
Exactly.
Which led to something, very dramatic. You referenced it. I want to play when Scott Pelley, who's a sort of a measured, constrained, nonpartisan figure on the old guard of nightly news as there ever is, said, enough, basta, and spoke out for the aforementioned Mr. Owens. Let's take a look back at that moment on 60 Minutes.
Our parent company, Paramount, is trying to complete a merger. The Trump administration must approve it. Paramount began to supervise our content in new ways. None of our stories has been blocked, but Bill felt he lost the independence that honest journalism requires.
Mark?
Look, what I find really upsetting here, frankly, is, Donald Trump is going to do what Donald Trump does. Everything he's done here is basically in the zone of the way he behaves around journalists, around journalism in general. What we rely on as journalists is for our parent companies, our editors, to back us, to have our backs. We want to work for companies that fight for this principle, fight for our independence, fight for the stories we want to write. And that's what didn't happen here.